to Shed Talk, my weekly magazine video series looking at the keeping, breeding and showing of cage birds, with a particular focus, as usual, on the exhibition style budgerigar. So what I've got for you in this episode then, so there were a number of young birds that were in the breeding cages, so that had just recently been weaned, and I've now moved those into the nappy flight. So what I thought I'd do is have a look at those few birds that we've moved, pop them into the showcase, just have a quick look, and perhaps I'll talk a little bit about them as I usually do when we're looking at those young birds. The other thing we will do is we'll get the second pair of Fifes out, and we'll have a look at those again in the breeding cages, so that the pair number 2 from my point of view in the Fifes, well currently what I'm considering my pair number 2 with the Fifes. And so that's really what we've got for this particular episode. Right, so what I will do then is we'll start getting the youngsters out, and we'll have a quick look at those. So this is the first of the youngsters we're going to look at, and this is out of cage number 4, a cinnamon, as you can see, and I think it's going to be a hen, although I'm not 100% certain yet. So cinnamon green, and this is the lesser of the 2 cinnamon greens that we've got in this cage. It's not quite as good as the next one we're going to look at. Whether it will be a keeper, I don't know. It needs to grow on a little bit, I think, if it's going to be. And it just lacks that little bit of something about it. It is still quite young, so it may get a little bit more between the eyes and grow a little bit more width. It's not bad in terms of its length. And again, of course, I'm comparing this with my birds rather than with anybody else's, so it's what it looks like in comparison with the youngsters in my setup. There we go, cinnamon dark green, I think it is. So this is the next of the birds out of cage number 4, and this is a cinnamon grey-green. I explained in a couple of episodes ago when we've looked at these birds while they were still in the nest box or on the bottom of the cage, that you can identify this as being a grey-green because of the cheek patches, which are that sort of grey-blue colour. I'll just see if I can get them to sit up a bit straighter. This bird, I like this one. I think this is probably the best bird I've bred so far this breeding season. It has a real nice amount of width between the eyes, and it's a nice big bulky bird. The more interested in the bottom of the cage than the top at the moment, so we'll see if we can get him to sit up a little bit. Nice, reasonably nice depth of mask on him, and like I say, quite a nice width between the eyes. Stands reasonably well. Nice wide shoulders. I'm going to put something in the bottom of the cage to see if it'll make him look up a bit. Not sure that helped too much, did it? If anything, it seems to have unsettled him a little bit. This is a hen, cockbird. And definitely, this is definitely a keeper. So let's pop this one back into, into the nursery flight. Like I say, a keeper, and we'll have a look at the last two that we're going to look at that are moving across to the nursery flight today. So another cinnamon. This one's a cinnamon cobalt, I think, although it could be a cinnamon light sky blue violet. I'd need to double check. But okay, so we'll call it a cinnamon cobalt. Definitely looks like it's got some dark in it rather than just light blue. And this is out of cage number 4. Sorry, cage number 6. Just trying to get him to settle a little bit on the perch. Again, not the greatest of birds, a bit narrow between the eyes, and so, you know, lacking that width. Not bad in terms of overall size. In terms of length, I suppose, is what I'm saying. Just going to see if it will settle a little bit. It's quite a longish bird. It really has taken me a little while to get this bird to settle. And the moment I start talking, he stops settling and starts going silly again. Anyway, like I say, this is a cinnamon violet or cinnamon cobalt. But I don't think I'm going to get this bird to settle, so I'll pop him into the nappy flight. I'll see if I can get some still pictures of him when he is a bit sort of sat more. So this now then is the cinnamon sky blue. He settled a little bit. He was a real pain when I first put him in the show cage, but he does seem like he's settled down. Not the greatest of birds, a fairly longish bird given its age, but lacks a bit of width between the eyes. Going to be a cockbird. May or may not be a keeper. I'll have to wait and see how this one grows on and what other birds we may have. Certainly not as good as the cinnamon grey-green that we just saw. He does have a little bit of stance about him when he stands on the perch. With the legs being quite wide apart, it gives him that sort of firm, I suppose, look about the bird. At the moment his mask has been disrupted because he's been so flappy in the show cage up until this point. I think he's a cinnamon cobalt, but may be a violet. So there we go. That's the next of the birds. I will put this one into the nappy flight, particularly as he's not really been enjoying the show cage up until now. It'll give him a chance to settle in and relax a little bit. Although he looks pleasantly relaxed now, doesn't he, or reasonably relaxed now. Let me know your thoughts as usual. Probably not a keeper, but we'll have to wait and see, as I say. And so the second of the cinnamon grey greens. This bird isn't as good as the last of the grey greens that we looked at, or the first of the grey greens that we looked at. But is a hen rather than a cockbird, so it may be a keeper because of that. Lacks the width and the direction over the eyes and between the eyes, but has quite a nice feather around the rest of the body for a cinnamon. Still fairly young. reasonable depth of mask to him. And a fairly little, not too bad in terms of length of this bird, but certainly not the biggest bird that I've ever bred. Whether she will be a keeper, I don't know. As it's a hen, it's probably more likely to make it. But again, it will depend on what else I manage to breed in this breeding season. So that's the last of the birds that we're going to look at. Another cinnamon grey-green. Well, I've put all of the youngsters back into the nappy flight. I'm just going to nip down now to the outside flight and get the second pair of Fifes out, like I said, so I will do that. There was in the last episode I spoke about, there was a question about egg eating. And I said what I would normally do around that there. Well, in the meantime, there was a post on the Facebook page. And if you're not a member of the Shed Talk Facebook page, do go across and have a look. Do join there and do post any comments or anything you like on that particular page. That was, of course, cage bird related. But there was a comment on there of someone who was watching a back episode of Shed Talk, and where I'd spoken about feather plucking, and he suggested one way of preventing feather plucking was to trim the beak a little bit, so just the pointed bit of the beak. And he also then said that this is another way of stopping egg eating, or birds from smashing their eggs because they can't physically chip into them. And whilst I've never done that, it does sound like another option for those of you who are, or if you are having problems, particularly with egg eating or feather plucking. I would suggest you probably need to be reasonably confident about trimming the beak. It will grow back again, so it's not like it's going to be permanently deformed, but I would just literally, what they were talking about was just take the pointy end off of the beak. It shouldn't affect them in terms of cracking seed and doing all that sort of stuff. Anyway, that was just another option, and thanks very much for that comment. Like I say, what I'll do now is we'll go out and get these Fifes. So this is the next, my second pair of Fifes, and I do like both of these birds. So the cockbird is on the left, and I am absolutely certain this is a cockbird. It's a heavily variegated buff. The reason why I'm saying I'm certain this is a cockbird is it sings its head off all the time. So, so I can't be any more certain than that, I don't think. Again, this is a nice, neat little bird. He's got quite a bit of width across the shoulders. And I didn't mention that in the last episode about the requirement to have that sort of, I suppose, almost heart shape when you're looking down on them from the top. And on the right hand side is the hen. This is a variegated yellow hen. Neither of them want to get up on the perch. This hen has a lovely little head on her, and a nice rise around the back. Not quite got the same width across the shoulders as the other bird, but a very nice, typey, I think, little Fife, and may well be, the more I look at this little hen, the more I like her. So there isn't a lot, I don't think, between this pair of Fifes and the other pair of Fifes, which we looked at last week. When I did my initial assessment of these birds, the cockbird came out as being best, and the young hen here came out as being a bit lower than the previous. Sorry, I'm just trying to get these to get on the perch a little bit. Neither of them want to be on the perch too much, do they? Anyway, so this hen came out a bit lower down than the last hen, but now I look at her, the more I like her. So this is the second pass. See if I can get some close-ups of them, hopefully when they're sat on the perch. The cockbird. Like I say, a very heavily variegated buff. And the yellow hen, she sat down a little bit on the perch at the moment, but I think we got some views of her earlier where she was stood up quite nicely, standing up off the perch. Again, both these birds do hold themselves quite well, although, like I say, this hen isn't showing herself particularly well at the moment. But the cockbird, this jaunty little fella over here, does stand up well, stands up nice and high. Let's back across and have another look at the hen. I'll see if I can get this hen to show herself better. Hopefully you can see her a little bit better there. Neither of them are particularly well trained in the show cage, as you can undoubtedly tell. I did have someone contact me about overfeeding the tonic seed. I'm only giving them the tonic seed like this in the show cage, just so that they get used to poking their head through the little gap. Otherwise, they don't get tonic seed. I think they get it probably once a week, possibly twice a week, and they're getting the soft food about 3 to 4 times a week. So hopefully I'm not overfeeding them and they're not going to be carrying too much weight when they go into the breeding cage together. I'll just pull back out and get another look at both of them, if we can. As always, let me know your thoughts on these two, and we will hopefully have a look at the third and final pair next week, although I'm not totally sure what my third and final pair is going to look like. So there are pair 2 of the Fifes. Well, that is just about all we've got time for in this episode. If you did enjoy it, please don't forget to hit the like I always say. The increased number of likes makes the video go to a slightly wider audience and the number of views go up. So please do hit the like if you enjoyed it. Don't forget, if you're not yet a subscriber, please do subscribe to the channel. And if you want early notifications, then hit the bell. In the next episode then, as we haven't had an update from the breeding cages for a few weeks, what I thought I'd do in the next episode is we'll have a look at those breeding cages, and maybe we'll get another pair of Fifes out. I'm still umming and ahhing about the third pair, so maybe we will do that. But until the next one, as always, do stay safe, enjoy your birds.